Hey YouTube, Tire Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully you guys are doing well. So business has definitely picked up as just what the time that I've made this started making this video. We now have Tropical Storm Idalia. So we're in a pretty dangerous spot here, if I were to say so myself, because this is what I've been calling the no-no square all year, the Gulf of Mexico. And while I'm trying to make some humor out of this, the sea surface temperatures are not a joke. Seeing 30 degrees Celsius, and if you want it to be put into perspective for you, 30 degrees Celsius is just about at close to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Put it in perspective for you even further, the minimal temperature for tropical development or encouraged tropical development is about 80 degrees. So we're well above the threshold by this point. So this is a bit more concerning as we continue to go forward here, because these waters aren't going to be cooling down anytime soon. This is a look at the storm on satellite and still shot. This was of 11:30 a.m. my time, Eastern time. But if we go on to satellite right now, you can actually see the circulation beginning to develop, and something is kind of giving me the feeling that this could strengthen rapidly, not to mention the fact that the water is hot over here. But wind shear kind of seems like it might be lightening just a little bit. Off to the west, there's still some pretty good remnant wind shear, but I do think that that's going to clear out. Also, if you look off to the east here, you can see Hurricane Franklin now, after it did its work in the Hispaniola region, thankfully only as a tropical storm. This is going to head out to sea. It may make impact. It may make impact with Bermuda. Definitely, at the very least, you could be looking at some higher surf and rip currents over there towards the region. And then even off the eastern coast of Florida and up the east coast, we could see rip currents and waves as well. But this shouldn't be making any sort of major landfall of any kind at the moment. I'm not anticipating it. It is, however, slated to become a major hurricane. In fact, it's already a Category 2. But if we were to look at the cone here, like I said, it makes a close pass to Bermuda. Likely to miss it. And this M right here means major hurricane. And if I switch over to this other site, we can actually get a look at what the forecast intensity is expected to be. It makes it the Category 4. And if we were to actually look at it on satellite, it's gotten more impressive as of late here. So if we look at the spaghetti models here, most of this we're going to keep this at a low to middle end Category 4. There's none that really bring it to 5 right now. Of course, this could change, but this is most likely just going to mainly stay out to sea, as we can see here on this chart. Worst case scenario, it might make it all the way to Greenland. Of course, it'll be much weaker by that point, but that would be a spectacle if it actually were to make it out that far. Only one model has it going there. And then on the latest run here from 6 o'clock Z, or 06Z as it's called, only a handful of models have it making it out this far. Once you get towards the central part of the Atlantic, the waters really cool off, make it kind of unfavorable for this storm to really prosper from that point onward here. But still, Franklin expected to do some major work here as far as strength is concerned. I am concerned, however, about Idalia. As of right now, it's slated to only get up to 90 miles an hour, but with the conditions being as they are and wind shear potentially weakening across the Gulf here, I wouldn't be surprised to see some rapid intensification, especially as it draws closer to land. Wind shear is our only hope to keep the storm at bay here. Otherwise, we could maybe even, as much as I hate to say it, be dealing with even an Ian-like situation. Let's hope for the best here. Like I said, it's not guaranteed to happen, but you definitely need to be prepared in case that scenario comes into fruition. Definitely not wishing it for sure. But as far as spaghetti models are concerned, as far as the intensity is concerned, most of them stay at Cat 1 for the moment. There is one that goes towards Cat 2 and has it at about 88 knots, which would be over 100 miles an hour at that point. Really close to maybe even major hurricane status if this continues onward. But we need to be extra watchful of the path in particular. Even a Category 1 storm, with the current pace that the storm is moving, which is at about 5 miles an hour right now, that's still very concerning, because that can not only increase the storm surge, which this side of Florida is already very prone to as it is from the storm's current direction and track right now, but also flooding rain becomes more dangerous. The potential for tropical tornadoes increases too. So we could have extended impacts if this doesn't speed up, and even if it remains slow. If it becomes a major hurricane, that's still just as bad at this point. So we just have to wait and see what happens here. But most of all, anyone that's towards this Big Bend of Florida here, towards the west coast of Florida, up north especially, definitely need to be on the lookout for rapidly changing conditions, because it's not like it's too far away here. I do expect this to speed up just a little bit, because if we actually were to look at the data here, it looks like by Wednesday morning we're going to be staring this thing down over here towards the Big Bend in particular, and probably by the afternoon on Wednesday is when we could expect landfall. This will kind of hang off the south coast of South Carolina. That's a mouthful. And then eventually we'll probably see this head off to sea by Friday off the Carolinas coast. But nonetheless, we need to definitely stay on alert here. As far as other parts of the tropics are concerned, we'll also take a look at the worldwide tropics as a whole here. There's Tropical Storm Irwin, which is not really expected to do a whole lot. It's going to be heading towards the central Pacific here, but relatively disorganized on a satellite here. Looks like it's running into a little bit of trouble here. The waters over here towards the Pacific are cooling a little bit. We typically already are past peak hurricane season at this point. Storms will still form, but won't be nearly of the same intensity as some of the stuff we saw earlier into the year. Not to mention the current wind pattern has this being mainly pushed out to sea here. It's not even, it could get close to Hawaii, but by that point it probably will have already fallen apart, unfortunately. So if anyone's looking for rain over there in Hawaii, which really I wouldn't be, considering the fact that we're still dealing with major cleanup over there from the fire, this may be good or bad news. But since the fire hopefully is out at this point, I think it is still, but I'm not entirely sure. I haven't looked in a while, if I'm being honest. This won't be any factor. But anyway, that being said, also have two typhoons over here towards the northwest Pacific. You would have to get a lot more of your data over here from agencies over towards China and of course the northwestern Pacific. These could make big impacts as well. Most of these are expected to be pretty weak though at this point. Domery, or I don't know how to pronounce this, Domery, is expected to head out to sea though, so no impacts to Japan other than the obvious rip current and surf here. Also looks like it's getting sheared apart, so maybe this is about the max intensity that we'll see out of the storm. Idealistically, that's what we would want anyway. Now, Soloa, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, is a pretty impressive typhoon, reaching super typhoon status pretty much at this point now, because we're dealing with potentially max speeds of about 155. This, however, could make impact just off of Taiwan and really heading towards China, maybe even just north and east of Hong Kong here. So that's definitely something to be extra watchful of. Right now, there's no warnings from neither the Taiwan Central Weather Bureau and the Hong Kong Observatory here. This storm structure is really impressive at this point, so we'll have to see what this ends up doing here. Won't be able to, of course, watch this because this is a whole other side of the earth here, and the timing would just be really difficult to keep up with here at this point. If I could, I'd actually keep track of it. As far as anything else is concerned in the Atlantic right now, there's a couple of different areas where we could see tropical development here. Here's the first area. It's a really small area. I think this is still the remnants of Emily here. And then, of course, we're watching towards the MDR. It's that time of year. No surprises there. Towards the Pacific, nowhere else is really a point of interest. Northwestern Pacific, there is a spot over here. This is going to be 93W. We'll see how things pan out with that as time goes on. But looking over towards Idalia, this is going to be the point of interest over here, of course, the Gulf of Mexico. My concern, and I'm hoping 12Z's come in by now. I'm gonna actually refresh this real quick. Yep, 12Z is kind of in, but I think we could be able to see long enough here. This low pressure area, this is where Idalia has been, and this is where it's expected to go. One thing that's working in our favor right now is wind shear. Wind shear is pretty much our only hope in making sure that this thing does not develop, and also maybe even forcing the storm to move a little bit faster. If its forward speed is a little bit greater, then we're more likely to see this not have a real opportunity to strengthen. Waters are so warm, my concern is even with lower wind, with a weaker wind shear but not completely calm conditions, it could still strengthen pretty rapidly. We could be dealing with a Cat 2 here. Like I said, there's a lot of uncertainty with the intensity of this system. There are a lot of variables that come into play. There's also a lot of fail parameters, this being the biggest one that I can find so far. But all I can really say at this point, and I've said it a couple times already in the video, I'm sure, if you are in the Big Bend, west coast of Florida, make sure you're staying weather aware, please, because this could turn into a big storm. This could turn into a really bad situation. Once again, we don't even have to look back that far. Literally last year was a great example of that with Ian. Not saying that that's what this is going to be, but I can't say that the potential for that is zero. But that being said here, hopefully you guys are staying safe, being extra vigilant over there in Florida. Hope everyone else, regardless of where you are, you're doing the same, regardless of whether you have a tropical system or severe weather on your way. But that being said, hope you enjoyed the video. If you found it useful, make sure you smash that like button, decimating that subscribe button, hitting that share button. But this has been Ty, Metalhead Weatherman. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Have a good rest of your weekend, and I'll see you probably tomorrow morning.